When you think of the best main characters in movie history, what is it that best defines them? There's a vast amount of words you can use to describe a character. The way they act in different circumstances, their beliefs in wrong and right, and especially how they present themselves. At 6 foot tall and roughly 200 pounds, Jonathan Majors came to the set of Magazine Dreams looking the closest to a competition bodybuilder as he could. But the thing is, looks can be deceiving, because usually they can say so much about a protagonist. But for Majors, in Magazine Dreams, it's his internal conflict that separated him from being just another bodybuilder. Some of the greatest character-driven films deal with the protagonist going through some sort of internal strife whilst also chasing their biggest desires. It's as if the problems would cease to exist if they could just simply get out of their own way. Films like Taxi Driver, Carlito's Way, Requiem for a Dream, and 2019's Uncut Gems are all perfect examples of this. But for Magazine Dreams, Jonathan Majors is truly the spotlight of the picture. Fully engulfing himself as a character, Killian Maddox, a mentally ill bodybuilder struggling with his own identity and the desire to be remembered. Anytime he's shown on screen with other people, there's always something so off-putting about it. His portrayal of the character is the kind of thing that would make you want to lean back in fear of getting too close. The more we hear come out of his mouth, it's like we know something bad is going to happen. The problem is, with all the hours in the gym and the dedicated time to becoming Killian, unfortunately Magazine Dreams doesn't do much more to tell the story outside of Killian's mental struggles. It's stated that throughout the film, Killian one day dreams of becoming Mr. Olympia, but we never really feel the stakes or importance of that journey. The audience gets to see his struggle with the outside world, but it fails to ever go anywhere outside of Killian just being, well, unpredictably sick. You see, every character has a desire, and in pursuit of that desire, they take actions, and with every action must come a reaction from their environment. In Carlito's Way, Carlito wanted to get away from crime and a life that he once knew, to retire in the Bahamas. But the ways of his past continue to keep up with him as a way of tensions rising and old faces in the neighborhood track him down. In Uncut Gems, Howard Ratner wanted to sell a gem and profit big time, but his greed and gambling his way to success continued to get in his way as he owed money to the wrong people, which would eventually lead to his demise. But for Magazine Dreams, however, Killian wants to become Mr. Olympia. He wants to be on magazines and be remembered by the world around him. However, we never really get to feel the weight of that dream. There's never really seems to be any great consequence or opposing force other than himself. The dream starts to just feel like a broken record of stagnation. So much so that by later in the film, it's as if the director just started to throw in some random circumstances for shock value rather than actually writing anything believable for the climax of Killian. There's no sense of scale on the competitions that he's doing. There's no sense of rivalry. There's no sense of actual integration into anything. It just seemed to get to a point of, and then, insert your most disturbing random events you can possibly think of. And Killian does this, and then Killian, spoiler alert, is going to become a public shooter, and then Killian is sexually assaulted by his hero, and then Killian all of a sudden is happy and decides not to do it. It's like the film had the right starting and all the right ingredients, but it seemed to focus more on the vibe of things rather than actually go deeper and elaborate on them. The cinematography was often all too in your face, stylized to the point where lamps in apartments were neon blue. Almost every location in the picture felt all too conveniently vintage, and Killian's character still watched VHS tapes on his old TV despite it being 2025. The film is saturated in open-ended and often under-elaborated characters and circumstances that never seem to go anywhere and are all too quickly forgotten about. The other problem was its depiction of the world of bodybuilding. It was a one-sided, over-dramatized sketch of cliches and misconceptions that go into the world of bodybuilding. This, for me, showcased that director and writer Elijah Peenhams failed to do any deeper research on the subject matter he was writing about. A bodybuilder chugging a gallon of water on show day? Really? There's dark horses in every industry, sport, and art form. There's bad people at every corner, believe me. But Magazine Dreams had a one-sided view, with no real antagonist, no real stakes, and a foundation built on vibes with loose screws. Magazine dreams couldn't amount to the dedication, sacrifice, and sheer love for the craft Jonathan Majors had. If you're watching, if you're listening, bravo.